Let's continue our talk about the time. What is wrong with the time functionality? There is one issue with it. The time definitely provides us with some real time relative to the starting point, the epoch 1970 as we learned it. But there is a problem here. Although it is intuitive, it is maintained mainly by the hardware, but there is one big issue with it. The major issue, it is adjustable. What does this mean? If you try to, as an administrator, change your machine time, the time function is going to be changed. Let's say that we are in 2021 and then you computed the time. If you open your machine clock and it changed it to say the year 2000, okay, and you now computed the time, you will get the time from 97 to 2000, not to 2021. So as an administrator, when you change your computer clock, it's going to affect the time module, and this means something very shocking. The time itself might be decreasing. Like, let's say you have an application and we are assigning some files some times, and then suddenly the times decrease because the administrator changed the clock or any issue happened in it, and this is a very big problem. Python has other ways to handle the time. One of them is the clock, which is now deprecated, the perf counter, we'll talk about it, and there is also monotonic. Perf counter is a way to go, and these are some future links for you to see. So what is perf counter? The perf counter provides relative time and has no reference time point. And given that it doesn't have any of this epoch, you cannot change it, which is a great feature for it. Generally speaking, in a professional environment, when we would like to measure, benchmark something, we go with the perf counter. We actually go with something else, something called timeit module. The timeit module might take your block of code and run it something like, let's say, 1 million times and average it. This is important so that you can have something that's really stable for your performance. Let's keep things simple. This is exactly the same functionality that we see before to compute the time. I'm here importing time, but importing also the perf counter, and to mark the start and the end, I'm using this time the perf counter, not this time functionality. So now when you write this start time, end time, this interval will be computed very correctly, and it will not depend on the computer clock, so there will be no problems here, and it will be much more accurate due to some implementation details of the perf counter itself. Starting from Python 3.7, the perf counter even can return for us the exact nanoseconds if you would like to go more and more accurate. So this is mainly the perf counter, and this is the point behind it compared to the time function. The perf counter function is independent from the hardware. It doesn't depend on the clock. It isn't adjustable, so it's more preferred in the benchmarking. In the future, I would like to know that the time module has a few other functionalities. I believe it is improper to keep covering everything of this kind of minor details. Whenever I give you some future link, I mainly mean either it's something that is less priority or something that you should really learn a bit late. I would like you to know that the discussion about date and time isn't complete without a discussion about time zone. The time zone is a big hassle in the industry, and there are a lot of like best practices to handle it. I give this link in the date lecture. You should also give some reading. Educate yourself about what are time zones. If you don't know what exactly time zones, what is the daylight saving times, please educate yourself about that. The PyTZ module isn't a built-in module. It is the community module to handle the time zone issues. Why? Because the built-in date time and time modules are poor when it comes to the time zone. So we actually depend on a non-built-in module, the PyTZ module. Now there is a question here. We see the time class and we see time class, and the date time class has inside the time class. Which one to go with? If you are dealing with time zones in the future, you will learn that we go with date time and PyTZ. If you need things like benchmarking, you can use the time class. If you need the sleeping, you can use the sleep functionality. So it's fair in some areas, but with the time zone, we mainly go with the date time class. This again some kind of future reading that you should read. That's all.